Hi everyone! Now that we know how sound travels, let's get musical. I'm thinking of an instrument you may have seen before. It has a high-pitched voice and you blow into it to create sound. Can you guess what I'm thinking of? Of course! I'm talking about a flute. Flutes come in different shapes and sizes. Some have a whistle type of mouthpiece, like this tin whistle. Others have a sound hole that you blow across, like this flute you might play in band. All flutes work in a similar way. As you blow into the mouthpiece, the air inside the flute begins to vibrate, creating the sound. Changing the amount of air that is vibrating inside the flute will also change the frequency of the note, known as the pitch. On a flute, this can be done by playing the keys or covering the sound holes. Let's imagine that all the air in this flute turned pink and that you could see the air. If I covered all of the sound holes, the air column would fill the entire length of the tube. But if I remove my fingers and play it again, it would shorten the amount of air vibrating inside. It would shorten the air column, which would change the note. Let's hear the difference in the sound. Here's the first note with all of the sound holes covered up. And then if I remove my fingers, here's the second note. Could you hear a difference? Let's hear the first one again. Can we hum this note? And then the second note. Fantastic. Now, was that second note a higher or a lower pitch than the first one? What do you think? It was a higher pitch. I like to think of it this way. The bigger the air column, the lower the note. Can you say that with me? The bigger the air column, the lower the note. Therefore, the shorter the air column, the higher the note. Let's try making our own flutes using a simple water bottle. First, let's take a look at this water bottle. It's completely full. Do you see any air inside? There isn't much. Would this make a good flute right now? Well, we know that a flute produces sound by the air vibrating inside. And if there isn't air to vibrate, we won't hear much sound. So right now, this wouldn't make a very good flute. Also, if you blew into it when it was completely full, it would splash up. To make this a good flute, we're going to have to take a big drink of the water. But before we start, let's grab our logs and a pen, and now we're ready to go. Let's start by taking a big drink of the water. Now there is some room in the bottle, which is where the air is. To make a sound, we will place the rim of the bottle just underneath the bottom lip and purse the top lip to blow the airstream down and across the opening. If you don't get a sound right away, don't worry. Just readjust your airstream or maybe drink a little bit more of the water and see if that helps. Now, let's try making a sound by blowing across the bottle. Once you have found a note, Try humming it. Let's see if we can hum this note. If you like, you can also use a tuner app to find out the exact note your bottle is tuned to. Let's see what note this is. F. Now we're ready for our experiment. Write down this question in your log. What will happen when we play a note after taking a giant drink of water? Will the pitch change? If so, will it be higher or lower? What do you think? Will the note change after taking another big drink of water? Write down your guess or hypothesis. If you think the note will go higher after a big drink, raise your hand. If you think the note will go lower, raise your hand. And if you think the note will stay the same, raise your hand. Now, let's test our hypothesis. We'll start by hearing our notes again, so go ahead and blow into your bottle one more time and hum the note. Or if you like, you can use a tuner app to record the exact note. Here's my current note again. And using the tuner app, it's still an F. Now, let's all take a big drink and try again. We'll do the same thing. After playing, hum the new note, and if you're using a tuner, write down the new pitch. Delicious. Great! Let's see what my new note is. Let's see what this is on the app. That's a C, much lower than the F. Did you also get a lower note after drinking water? Write down your results. Do you think this would happen again if we drank even more water? Let's find out. We'll do the same thing one more time. Take a big drink and then play, hum, and record your new note. Cheers! Did the pattern continue? Let's hear my newest note. And with the app, it's an A, which is even lower than the other two. What can you deduce based on this pattern? Every time you take a drink, what happens to the sound? Write down your theory. Yes, every time we remove water from the bottle by drinking it, the pitch gets lower. Why is this? Let's take a look at our bottle. Is there more air or less air in the bottle than when we started? More air. And as we know, the bigger the air column, the lower the note. What kind of sound do you think I would get from this giant 2-liter bottle? Raise your hand if you think it would be a high note. Raise your hand if you think it would be a low note. Let's find out. Whoa, That was a really low note. And look, this bottle has a lot more air. Let's take a look at a flute and a piccolo. A piccolo is a really small flute. Which do you think will have the higher voice? Raise your hand if you think the piccolo will have a higher sound. Raise your hand if you think the flute will have a higher voice. Here to help us with this question is our friend JoJo from the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. Hi JoJo, would you mind playing an excerpt for us on your flute and your piccolo? Thank you so much, JoJo. Now, which instrument had the higher voice, the flute or the piccolo? The piccolo, because it has a much smaller air column. How about another wind instrument? Let's take a look at this tuba. Do you think it will have a high voice or a low voice? Let's listen and find out. Here's a DIY project you can try. Collect a few bottles of different sizes and put them in order of what you guess would have the lowest voice to the highest voice. Then, play each of them and see if you were correct. Later, you can demonstrate your flutes to your class. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning about flutes. I'm Miss Liz from the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra Sound Discoveries program. See you soon!